It was a chilly autumn morning, the kind where you could see your breath if you exhaled hard enough. The trees lining Maplewood Elementary School were shedding their golden leaves, and the air smelled faintly of damp earth. For Mrs. Evelyn Harper, it felt like any other day until something unusual caught her eye. Evelyn had been teaching third grade for over 10 years. She loved her job, but also knew how important it was to stay alert during those early hours when kids arrived at school. Some mornings were calm, with parents dropping off their children in cars or walking them hand in hand through the gates. Other days, especially ones like this, were busier because most kids came by the yellow school buses that rumbled down the street. That particular morning, Evelyn stood near the entrance of the school, holding her clipboard and watching the last bus pull away from the curb. Just as she turned to head inside, something strange grabbed her attention across the road. A little girl, no older than 7, was standing alone at the bus stop. Her small frame looked tense, almost frozen, as though she wasn't sure what to do next. At first, Evelyn thought maybe the girl had missed her bus or forgotten something. But then she noticed something odd about the way the child was behaving. The girl kept pointing frantically toward the departing bus, waving her arms wildly as if trying to flag it down. Evelyn frowned. Why would someone try to stop a bus that was already gone? Curiosity got the better of her, so Evelyn stepped closer to get a better look. And that's when she saw the back of the girl's pants. They were torn, revealing streaks of red that looked suspiciously like scratches or marks. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Something wasn't right here. She crossed the street quickly, her heart pounding. As she approached, she realized the girl was trembling not just from the cold, but from fear. Her wide eyes darted around nervously, and her lips quivered as though she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Hey there," Evelyn said softly, kneeling down to the girl's level. "Are you okay? What happened?" The girl didn't answer right away. Instead, she clutched her backpack tightly, her knuckles turning white. Finally, after what felt like forever, she whispered, I don't know." Evelyn scanned the area again, her mind racing. There was no one else around except for a few distant figures walking dogs or heading to work. Still, something deep inside told her that this situation was more serious than it appeared. Without wasting another second, Evelyn pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice shook slightly as she explained what she'd seen, a young girl acting strangely, torn clothing and signs of distress. Within minutes, police officers arrived on the scene, ready to investigate further. As they spoke to the girl, Evelyn stayed nearby, keeping an eye on things. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had happened was far bigger than anyone realized. Little did she know, her quick thinking would set off a chain of events that would change not only the girl's life but the entire community's sense of safety. For now, all Evelyn could do was wait and hope she'd done the right thing. The 2 police officers arrived at the scene quickly, their car pulling up with a soft screech of tires. Officer Daniels, a tall man with a kind face and a reassuring voice, stepped out first. His partner, Officer Martinez, followed close behind, her sharp eyes already scanning the area for anything unusual. Both wore uniforms that gave off an air of authority, but they approached the girl gently, knowing how important it was to make her feel safe. Evelyn met them halfway, explaining everything she'd seen, the frantic pointing, the torn pants, and the fear in the child's expression. She kept her tone calm and steady, even though her heart was still racing. The officers listened carefully, nodding as they took notes. Once Evelyn finished, they turned their attention to the little girl. "Hi there," Officer Daniels said softly, kneeling down so he was at eye level with her. "My name is Officer Daniels, and this is my friend Officer Martinez. We're here to help you. Can you tell us your name?" The girl hesitated for a moment, glancing at Evelyn before finally speaking. "Lily," she whispered, barely audible. "Well—" "Lily?" Officer Martinez chimed in with a warm smile. "We want to make sure you're okay. Do you mind telling us what happened this morning?" Lily looked down at her shoes, fidgeting with the strap of her backpack. For a few seconds, she didn't say anything. Then slowly she began to speak. Her voice was quiet, almost like she was afraid someone might overhear her. I was waiting for the bus. And then a man on the bus yelled at me. A man. On the bus? Officer Daniels repeated, his brow furrowing slightly. What did he say? He told me to come closer, Lily murmured, her hands twisting nervously. He said I needed to listen to him, but I didn't go. I just pointed at the bus because I thought maybe someone would see me. Officer Martinez exchanged a glance with her partner. This detail was troubling, but they kept their expressions calm and reassuring. They didn't want to scare the girl any further? And your pants? Officer Daniels asked gently, gesturing toward the tier. Did something happen to them? Lily hesitated again, biting her lip. It was clear she didn't want to talk about it, but after a long pause, she whispered, Someone grabbed me yesterday, when I was walking home from school. Both officers stiffened slightly, though they tried not to show it. Grabbed her? That changed things? Officer Martinez leaned in a little closer, her voice soft but firm. Can you tell us more about that, Lily? Who grabbed you? Do you remember what they looked like? Lily shook her head. I don't know who it was. I was just walking, and then someone pulled on my arm. I ran away, but my pants got caught. On something. That's why they're ripped. The officers exchanged another silent look. This wasn't just a random incident anymore. It sounded like someone had been targeting Lily, and if one child had been affected, there could be others. 2. Thank you for telling us, Lily, Officer Daniels said, giving her a small, encouraging smile. You're very brave to share all of this. We're going to do everything we can to keep you safe, okay? Lily nodded, though her eyes still held a hint of fear. Evelyn, who had been standing nearby, felt a lump form in her throat. She couldn't imagine what the poor girl must have gone through, and she silently vowed to do whatever she could to support her, while Officer Martinez stayed with Lily to ask a few more questions. Officer Daniels walked over to Evelyn. Do you know where Lily lives? He asked quietly. We'll need to contact her family and let them know what's going on. Evelyn nodded. Yes, she lives with her grandmother. I've seen her pick Lily up from school before. Let me grab her information for you. As Evelyn hurried back into the school building to retrieve the contact details, Officer Daniels radioed in to request backup. If someone had indeed been following or harassing children near bus stops, they needed to act fast. He also asked dispatch to review any available security footage from nearby businesses, anything that might shed light on who this person was and what exactly had happened. By the time Evelyn returned with the grandmother's phone number, Officer Martinez had managed to coax a bit more information out of Lily. The girl mentioned seeing the same man twice now at the bus stop earlier that morning and briefly while walking home the previous day. Though she couldn't describe him in great detail, she recalled that he wore dark clothes and carried a bag of some sort. Armed with these clues, the officers decided to take Lily back to the station to speak with a counselor trained in working with children. They assured her and Evelyn that she would be safe and that they were doing everything possible to catch whoever was responsible before leaving. Officer Daniels turned to Evelyn. Thank you for calling us right away, he said sincerely. Your quick thinking may have prevented something much worse from happening. We'll be in touch soon to update you on our progress. Evelyn nodded, feeling a mix of relief and worry. Relief that she'd done the right thing by contacting the authorities, but worry about what this meant for Lily and for other kids in the community. As the police car drove away, she stood there for a moment, watching until it disappeared around the corner. Back at the station, Lily sat in a cozy room filled with colorful drawings and stuffed animals, a space designed to put children at ease. The counselor introduced herself and spent time talking to Lily, helping her open up even more about what she'd experienced. Meanwhile, the officers got to work piecing together the puzzle. They reached out to Lily's grandmother, explaining the situation carefully so as not to alarm her unnecessarily. The elderly woman was shocked and deeply concerned, promising to keep a closer eye on her granddaughter moving forward. She revealed that she worked long hours and often relied on neighbors to watch Lily during busy times. While there was no indication of negligence, it highlighted the vulnerability of kids in situations like this. With each new piece of information, The investigation grew broader. Officers reviewed surveillance footage from local businesses along the bus route, searching for anything suspicious. One grainy video showed a man stepping off a bus moments after Lily reported feeling threatened. Another clip captured him lingering near playgrounds and parks where children frequently gathered. Though the images weren't clear enough to identify him immediately, patterns began to emerge. This wasn't a random act, it seemed calculated, deliberate. Someone was watching, waiting, and choosing their moments carefully. As the day wore on, word spread through the community about what had happened. Parents started talking, sharing stories of strange encounters their own children had mentioned in passing. A mother recounted how her son once complained about a creepy guy near the park. Another parent remembered seeing someone loiter, nowing outside the library. Each story added weight to the growing suspicion that this wasn't an isolated case, it is part of a larger, more sinister pattern. For Evelyn, the events of the morning weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about Lily and the terror she must have felt. It made her realize just how fragile safety could be, especially for children. Determined to help, she decided to reach out to other teachers and staff members, urging them to stay vigilant and report anything unusual. By the end of the day, the entire town seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see what would come. Next, the police were working tirelessly, determined to track down the person responsible. And somewhere in the midst of it all, Lily clung to the hope that things would get better, that someone was finally listening and ready to protect her. The investigation moved quickly, but it wasn't easy. The officers knew they were dealing with something serious, and every second mattered. They started by reviewing the surveillance footage from nearby businesses along the bus route. It was tedious work hours of staring at grainy videos, pausing, rewinding, and zooming in on shadowy figures. But eventually they found something that made their hearts sink. In one of the clips, a man could be seen stepping off the bus just moments after Lily had described feeling threatened. He wore dark clothes and carried a backpack, his face partially hidden by the hood of his jacket. At first glance, he didn't look like anyone special, just another person walking down the street. But when the officers replayed the video, they noticed something unsettling. The man wasn't heading anywhere in particular. Instead, he lingered near the bus stop, glancing around as if he was waiting for someone or watching. Another clip showed him hanging around areas where kids often played: parks, playgrounds, even the basketball court behind the community center. He didn't seem to belong there. There were no children in sight during those moments, yet he stayed, pacing back and forth like he was scoping out the area. It was creepy, to say the least. As the officers dug deeper, they realized this wasn't the first time someone matching his description had been spotted. A local shopkeeper mentioned seeing a man loitering outside her store last week. He just stood there, she told them, watching the kids walk by. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Parents began coming forward too, sharing stories that sent chills down everyone's spines. One mother recalled how her son had complained about a weird man who kept staring at him while he waited for the bus. Another parent said her daughter had once whispered about a stranger who followed her partway home before disappearing into an alley. None of these incidents seemed connected at the time, but now they all pointed to the same troubling conclusion: someone was targeting children. Back at the station, Lily continued to work with the counselor, gradually opening up more about what she'd experienced. She remembered bits and pieces: the man's voice, the way he'd leaned out of the bus window to yell at her, the feeling of being grabbed the day before. It wasn't much, but every detail helped paint a clearer picture of who they were looking for. Meanwhile, Evelyn couldn't shake the image of Lily standing alone at the bus stop, trembling with fear. She wanted to do more to help, not just for Lily, but for all the children in the community. So she called a meeting with the school principal and other teachers to discuss ways they could keep students safer. We can't let this happen again, Evelyn said firmly during the meeting. If we see anything unusual, we need to report it immediately. We're the adults here, it's our job to protect them. Everyone agreed, and together they came up with a plan. Teachers would take turns monitoring bus pickups and drop-offs more closely. Parents would be encouraged to accompany their kids to and from the bus stops whenever possible, and flyers would be sent home reminding families to talk to their children about staying alert and reporting anything suspicious. Word spread fast through the town. People were scared, but they were also determined to do something about it. Neighborhood watch groups formed almost overnight, with volunteers patrolling streets and keeping an eye on places where kids gathered. Social media buzzed with posts urging parents to stay vigilant. Even the local news picked up the story, running segments about child safety and offering tips on how to spot potential danger. But despite all the efforts, the man remained elusive. Every lead seemed to end in frustration. The officers tracked down several people who matched the vague descriptions given by witnesses, only to rule them out one by one. It was like chasing shadows. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't quite catch him. Then, late one evening, a breakthrough came. A gas station clerk called the police to report seeing someone suspicious lurking near the pumps. When officers arrived, they found a man fitting the description from the surveillance videos. He was wearing dark clothes and carrying a backpack, just like in the footage. His demeanor was calm, almost casual, as if he had nothing to hide. But when they asked him a few questions, cracks began to show. At first, he claimed he was just passing through town, visiting a friend. But when pressed for details, his answers became inconsistent. He couldn't remember his friend's name or address. He stumbled over simple questions, growing visibly agitated. The officers decided to bring him in for further questioning. Back at the station, the interrogation room felt tense. The man sat across from the detectives, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. He still denied any wrongdoing, insisting he hadn't done anything illegal. But as the officers laid out the evidence, surveillance footage, witness statements, sketches based on descriptions, he began to squirm in his seat. "You've been seen near schools, parks, bus stops," Officer Daniels said, sliding a photo across the table. "Care to explain why?" The man hesitated, then shrugged. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I just hang out sometimes." "Hang out?" Officer Martinez repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Near places where kids are? That doesn't sound right." For a moment, the man looked like he might argue. But then, as if realizing he was cornered, he sighed heavily. "Okay, fine," he admitted reluctantly. "I watch them, but I don't hurt them. I swear." It wasn't much of a confession, but it was enough to confirm their suspicions. This man had been stalking children, preying on their vulnerability. Whether he intended to escalate his actions or not didn't matter. He'd already caused harm. Simply by making them afraid. The news hit the community hard. Parents hugged their kids a little tighter that night, grateful that the threat had been identified. Teachers doubled down on their efforts to create a safe environment at school. And Evelyn? She felt a mix of emotions: relief that the man was caught, but sadness knowing how many lives he'd touched with his actions. Still, there was hope. The town had come together in a way no one expected. Strangers introduced themselves to each other, united by a shared goal of keeping their children safe. Flyers went up in windows, offering self-defense classes for kids and workshops for parents on recognizing signs of trouble. Even the bus drivers pledged to be more observant, promising to report anything unusual. Lily, meanwhile, began to heal. With the support of her grandmother, her counselor, and Evelyn, she slowly regained her confidence. She started smiling again, laughing with her friends at recess. Life wasn't perfect, but it was moving forward, and that was something worth holding on to. As for Evelyn, she made a promise to herself. No matter how routine things seemed, she would never stop paying attention. Because sometimes the smallest detail, a torn pair, 1550 words, in simple English words, Part 3, it should be interesting. And every part should be engaging so the audience doesn't get bored. Also keep the wording simple and natural tone. Also, make the script human-centric and don't give feel of AI generated. Also, don't create violated content which can affect YouTube policy. Also, don't use names like Marcus, Sarah, Emma, Jamal, etc. Aji and I say that don't use any violated word in my script. Just simple English language. The man sat in the interrogation room, his face pale and his hands gripping the edge of the table. He wasn't screaming or protesting anymore. Instead, he stared at the floor, avoiding eye contact with the officers. Officer Daniels and Officer Martinez exchanged a glance. They could tell they were getting close to something big. "Let's start from the beginning," Officer Daniels said, his voice firm but calm. "Why were you near that bus stop this morning?" The man hesitated, then mumbled, "I was just walking." "Walking?" Officer Martinez repeated, leaning forward slightly. "You didn't look like you were just walking. You looked like you were waiting for someone. Who were you waiting for?" "I wasn't waiting for anyone," he snapped, his voice rising. But almost instantly, he seemed to catch himself and lowered his tone. "I don't know what you're talking about." Officer Daniels slid a photo across the table. It was a still frame from one of the surveillance videos showing the man standing near the bus stop. His hood was pulled up and his backpack was slung over one shoulder. "This is you, isn't it?" he asked. The man glanced at the picture but didn't answer. His jaw tightened and his fingers drummed nervously on the table. "Look," Officer Martinez said gently, "we already know. You've been seen around places where kids hang out, bus stops, parks, playgrounds. We're not accusing you of anything yet, but we need to understand why you're there. What's your reason?" For a long moment, the man didn't speak. Then finally he sighed and muttered, "I watch them sometimes. But I don't hurt them. I swear." Officer Daniels leaned back in his chair, studying the man carefully. "What do you mean, watch them? Why are you watching children?" "It's nothing bad," the man stammered. "I just notice them. Kids are everywhere, aren't they? I'm not doing anything wrong." Officer Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Noticing them doesn't explain why you yelled at Lily this morning? Or why she says someone grabbed her arm yesterday?" At the mention of Lily's name, the man's eyes flickered. For the first time, he looked genuinely nervous. "I didn't grab her," he said quickly. "I wouldn't do that. I just talked to her." "Talk to her?" Officer Daniels echoed, his tone sharp now. "From what we heard, you scared her? She thought you were going to hurt her? Does that sound like talking to you?" The man shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He opened his mouth as if to argue, then closed it again. "I didn't mean to scare her," he said quietly. "I just wanted her to come closer so I could ask her something." "Ask her what?" Officer Martinez pressed. Her voice was calm, but there was a steeliness behind it that made the man squirm. "I don't know," he admitted. "It's stupid. Forget it." "No," Officer Daniels said firmly. "We're not forgetting it. You need to tell us everything." Right now, the man buried his face in his hands, breathing heavily. When he finally looked up, his expression was defeated. "Fine," he said. "I wanted to see if she'd listen to me, that's all. I wasn't going to hurt her. I just thought I wanted to see if she'd do what I said." Both officers froze. This admission changed everything. It wasn't just about watching kids anymore. It was about control, about testing boundaries. And while the man insisted he hadn't physically harmed anyone, his actions suggested a disturbing pattern. Officer Martinez scribbled notes furiously, her mind racing. They had enough to charge him with harassment and stalking, possibly even attempted abduction. But they needed more evidence to build a solid case, so they kept pushing. "What else have you done?" Officer Daniels asked. "Have you approached other kids before? Have you touched them?" The man shook his head vigorously. No. I haven't touched anyone. I swear, I just watch them. Sometimes I talk to them, but I never touch." "Them and the backpack?" Officer Martinez asked suddenly. "What's in it?" The man blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Nothing, just my stuff." "Let us decide that," Officer Daniels said, standing up. "We'll need to search it." Reluctantly, the man handed over the backpack. Inside, they found notebooks filled with handwritten notes, details about bus routes, times when kids would be waiting, descriptions of certain children. There were also photographs of bus stops and playgrounds, some marked with circles or arrows. It was chilling proof of how methodical his behavior had been. As the officers reviewed the contents of the bag, their suspicions deepened. This wasn't random. It was calculated. The man had been planning his movements carefully, targeting vulnerable moments when children were alone or unsupervised. Back at the school, Evelyn heard about the arrest later that evening. She felt a mix of relief and unease. Relief because the man was off the streets, unable to harm anyone else. Unease because the whole situation reminded her how easily danger could slip under the radar. She decided to take action. That weekend, she organized a community meeting at the local library. Parents, teachers, and neighbors gathered to discuss ways to keep kids safer. Ideas flowed freely: more supervision at bus stops, better lighting in public areas, self-defense classes for children. Someone even suggested starting a buddy system so no child had to walk home alone. Evelyn stood at the front of the room, addressing the crowd. "We can't let fear take over our lives," she said firmly, "but we also can't ignore what happened. We owe it to Lily and to every child to make sure this never happens again." The meeting ended with a sense of purpose. People left feeling empowered, ready to work together to protect their community. Flyers went up around town offering tips on spotting suspicious behavior. Volunteers signed up to patrol neighborhoods during peak hours when kids were most active. Even the local news station covered the story, highlighting the importance of staying vigilant. Lily, meanwhile, continued to heal. With the support of her grandmother and counselor, she began to feel safe again. She returned to school, laughing with her friends and participating in class activities. Evelyn kept a close eye on her, checking in regularly to make sure she was adjusting well. One afternoon, Evelyn found Lily sitting alone on the playground swings after school. She walked over and sat beside her, giving her a warm smile. "How are you doing, sweetheart?" she asked softly. Lily shrugged. "Okay, I guess." "You know," Evelyn said, "you did something really brave. You spoke up when something didn't feel right." "Not everyone has the courage to do that." Lily looked up, surprised. "Do you think it helped?" "I know it helped," Evelyn replied. "Because of you, we were able to catch the person who was making kids feel scared. You made a difference, Lily." A small smile spread across Lily's face. For the first time in weeks, she seemed truly happy. Evelyn reached out and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "Keep being brave, okay? The world needs more people like you." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the playground, Evelyn realized something important. Danger might always exist in the world, lurking in unexpected places, but so did hope and resilience. And the power of a community coming together to protect its youngest members. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Healing took time and trust had to be rebuilt. But step by step, the town was moving forward. Together, they were proving that even in the face of fear, kindness and determination could shine through. The trial began a few months later, drawing attention from across the town. People packed into the courtroom, their faces tense with a mix of anger and curiosity. Parents clutched their children's hands tightly as they waited outside, while teachers like Evelyn sat quietly in the back rows, watching the proceedings unfold. For many, it was a chance to see justice served not just for Lily, but for every child who had ever felt unsafe. The man sat at the defendant's table, his head bowed low. He looked different now, thinner and paler than he had during the arrest. His lawyer argued that he hadn't physically harmed anyone, and that his actions were more about curiosity than malice. But the prosecutor pushed back hard, presenting evidence that painted a much darker picture. Photographs of bus stops and playgrounds filled the courtroom screens, each one marked with notes detailing times and locations where children would be present. The handwritten journals found in his backpack were read aloud, revealing obsessive details about routines and habits of kids in the community. Witnesses took the stand: parents, teachers, even bus drivers, all sharing stories of strange encounters or unsettling behavior they'd witnessed over the past year. Lily didn't have to testify in person. Instead, her counselor helped her record a statement that was played for the jury. Her voice trembled as she described the morning she pointed at the bus, the fear she felt when the man yelled at her, and the way her heart raced when someone grabbed her arm the day before. It was heartbreaking to hear, but also incredibly brave. By speaking out, she gave a voice to others who might have been too scared to come forward when the verdict came down. There was a collective sigh of relief. The man was found guilty of multiple charges, including harassment, stalking, and attempted abduction. The judge handed down a sentence that ensured he wouldn't be free to walk the streets anytime soon. As the gavel struck the desk, applause erupted in the courtroom, a rare moment of celebration in an otherwise somber setting. But the story didn't end there. For the community, this was just the beginning of a larger conversation about safety and responsibility. Parents started organizing workshops to teach kids how to recognize dangerous situations and what to do if they ever felt threatened. Teachers implemented new protocols at schools, such as having staff members monitor bus pickups, more closely and encouraging open discussions with students about their concerns. Evelyn became a driving force behind these changes. She reached out to local leaders, advocating for better lighting near bus stops and increased security measures around parks and playgrounds. Flyers went up in every classroom, reminding kids to stick together and report anything unusual. Even the bus drivers joined in, pledging to keep a closer eye on their passengers and alert authorities if something seemed off. For Lily, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after everything she'd been through. Her grandmother made sure she never walked anywhere alone, always accompanying her to and from school. At first, Lily still flinched whenever she saw someone unfamiliar, but over time her confidence grew. She started smiling again, laughing with her friends during recess, and participating in class without hesitation. One afternoon, Evelyn noticed Lily sitting by herself under a tree in the schoolyard. She walked over and sat down beside her, offering a warm smile. "How are you feeling today?" she asked gently. Lily shrugged, picking at a blade of grass. "I'm okay," she said softly. "Sometimes I think about, what happened, but not as much anymore." "That's good," Evelyn replied, nodding. "It's important to remember that it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong, Lily. You were brave, and because of you, we were able to stop him." Lily looked up, her eyes wide. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," Evelyn said firmly. "You spoke up when it mattered most. That takes courage. And because of you, other kids will feel safer too." A small smile spread across Lily's face, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. She glanced around the playground, watching her friends play tag and laugh together. "I guess things are getting better," she admitted. "They are," Evelyn agreed. "And they'll keep getting better because we're all working together to make sure of it." As the days turned into weeks, the town continued to heal. Neighbors greeted each other warmly, no longer strangers but allies in keeping their community safe. Parents formed groups to patrol bus routes, and volunteers organized events to bring people closer together. Even the local news station ran follow-up stories, highlighting the positive changes happening in Maplewood. Evelyn often thought about that chilly autumn morning when she'd first seen Lily standing alone at the bus stop. It had been a turning point not just for the little girl, but for everyone. It reminded her how fragile safety could be, especially for children, and how vital it was to stay vigilant. One evening, as Evelyn locked up her classroom and prepared to head home, she paused by the window. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty playground. She thought about Lily, about the bravery it had taken for her to speak up, and about the countless lives that had been touched by her courage. It wasn't easy to confront fear, Evelyn realized. But sometimes facing it head-on was the only way to move forward. And in doing so, they'd proven something powerful, that even in the darkest moments, a community united by love and determination could shine brighter than any threat. As she turned off the lights and stepped out into the cool night air, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose. Danger might always exist in the world, lurking in unexpected places, but so did hope, so did strength, and so did the unwavering belief that together they could protect the ones they loved most. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but Evelyn knew they were ready, because in Maplewood the people had learned an invaluable lesson, that the smallest act of kindness, the simplest gesture of care, could make all the difference in the world.